Just started to feel a weight come off my shoulders because I feel like we carry so much of other people's opinions or things we want to change about them, or we worry about decisions we're making and how it's affecting people. Are they going to be upset? Are they going to be disappointed? We carry all of this around inside of us, and it causes us so much stress. And just that simple step of learning to just say, well, let them be upset at me. Let them be disappointed.
No, it's never been the right time. Like we're holding back the storyline. And I'm waiting at the end of the night, thinking of you.
Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Call Your Mom podcast. This week, we're kind of having a book club moment, and we're talking about a book that has completely changed our lives this year. If you haven't heard about it already, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to talk about this book. I love it.
I love it too. It's such a good book, and it's really changed our lives the last couple of weeks at the beginning of January. It was a very good start to the year.
Yes.
But before we dive into the book, let me read a little bit about the author so you have an idea of who she is and what she's all about. Mel Robbins is a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and one of the most sought-after personal development coaches in the world. Known for her practical science-backed strategies, she gained global recognition for her TED Talk on the 5-second rule, a simple yet powerful tool to overcome procrastination and fear. Her work focuses on helping individuals build confidence, take action, and create meaningful change in their lives. With a relatable and empowering approach, Mel has inspired millions through her books, podcasts, and viral social media content. I wish she was here.
I know. I feel like Mel Robbins is one of those people that you meet and you just automatically connect with because she's just such a real person. Like, she's so down to earth, and her personality is just so dynamic and bubbly. And I don't know if bubbly is the right word. Just so she's like a straight shooter.
She is. And if you listen to her podcast, it does very much feel like you're right in front of her and she's
Yeah.
giving you the advice directly. So if you do head over to her podcast, she really is just so great at just relaying her message, giving you really good, helpful advice to really transform your life and start creating like what you actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very relatable.
Very relatable. But this book in general has literally been one of the best things I have read all year, right? I don't know about you.
Oh,
I guess we're at the start of the year.
I was
the best thing.
well, I was going to say well, the year's just begun, but I mean, I'm sure there's not any other competition that will come up the rest of the year.
And you know what? But hey, there are people who read books so fast. I'm not one of those people though. So
I'm not either. And I've listened to it, so I kind of got through it a lot faster, but I'm going to have to read it again.
Well, if you've read a bunch of books this year or you've only read one, make sure you add this to your list.
Yes.
But we're going to briefly describe what the Let Them Theory is all about. And just so you have an idea. So as we dive in, you're like, okay, this is what I'm for. So the whole entire concept is letting others have their opinions, make their choices, or feel disappointment while trying to stay true to your own boundaries and values.
Yeah.
Literally as simple as that.
Yeah.
And the whole concept is let them and let me.
Yes.
So we'll dive into each of those and what each of them mean and what she talks about in her book. So tell me your first initial thought and initial opinion about when you first started reading this. What'd you think?
I thought brilliant. I thought, wow, brilliant. And as I listened to it, because I would listen to it every day on my walk, I just started to feel a weight come off my shoulders because I feel like we carry so much of other people's opinions or things we want to change about them, or, we worry about decisions we're making and how it's affecting people. Are they going to be upset? Are they going to be disappointed? And we carry all of this around inside of us, and it causes us so much stress. And just that simple step of learning to just say, well, let them be upset at me. Let them be disappointed. And it gave me this feeling of freedom to really just focus in on what it is I want and how I feel. And if I'm feeling proud of the decision that I'm making, and it aligns with my core values, then I have to be okay with them being disappointed and let them be upset.
So good.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of an empowering, I would say I would choose the word empowerment.
Mhm.
For the same reason. I feel like it really allowed me to kind of put people's decisions back on them
Yeah.
and to take control of my life and what I want to do with it instead of worrying about what everyone else was going to decide to do
Yeah.
or be um or make a decision on something. Like
Mhm.
I knew that I was now able to take that power back and be like, no, okay, whatever you're going to decide, you're going to decide, but I can control, my boundaries, how I treat other people, how, and it let me um, empower myself to be like, okay, I'm going to put a boundary up and I'm going to set whatever that is disappointing me or whatever aside.
Yeah. It does. It lets you take your power back.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times when you're dealing with, certain things that are beyond your control, which kind of is a lot of things and everything, because you can't control people. We can't truly always control circumstances and the things that happen in life, because life isn't just linear. It's got all kinds of things that happen. And so I think when we just kind of let them, and then we step back and we do the second half, which is let me, and that is you decide how you're going to react to the person, to the situation, and how you're going to proceed. And then that allows you to empower yourself to make good decisions that are healthy for you and probably healthy for the other person. And, so.
Yeah, saying let them helps you let go of people's judgments, disappointments, and expectations.
Mhm.
It's a simple way of saying, like, by letting them, you're allowing yourself freedom and empowerment to let go of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, opinions and disappointment, we let that stop us from growing or making certain decisions because, like, the people pleaser part of us
Yeah.
comes in.
Mhm.
Right? So, is there a certain when you were reading this book, is there like a certain moment or that you're like, yeah, this applies exactly to this? Something going on in your life?
Yeah. She talks about so much stuff in this book. I mean, relationships, careers, difficult friend relationships. She talks about friendships, how to make friends, why we lose friends. You name it. Mel Robbins talks about it in this book, and how to use the let them theory throughout each circumstance. And so for me, one of the things that stuck out was, I'm going to say, the one with it was people that are difficult for me to deal with.
Mm,
And I think it's hard because the people pleaser in me, even though I do have boundaries and I am very good at protecting my peace, it's hard when people you love that are difficult need you to have boundaries and to let them. And so one of the things that she did say was you have to let people be adults.
yeah.
and and that applies to people that are 20 all the way to 100.
Yeah.
And so I have these people in my life, and I have to realize, like, okay, I can't change them. No amount of people pleasing is going to change them. They have to want to change. And she really talked about how the science behind us trying to change somebody actually has the opposite effect on them. It actually creates resistance. And so she talks you through how to use the let them theory when it comes to those relationships. And it really was like a weight lifted off of me, where it helped me not be so invested in the outcome of what they're doing and how they're doing it and how they're living and how it's affecting me. And I was able to shift my focus onto, okay, well, we've had the conversation. I use the let them theory tools, and now I can focus on me while I let them be them.
So good. No amount of love
Yes.
is going to change someone.
No.
And so I think that's so powerful because a lot of, especially like young, being young, Whether that's your family, you want your parents to change, whether that's a friendship that you want your friend to change, or you want a relationship, you want a boyfriend to change. No amount of love or encouragement is going to change that person, especially when they're already adults. Adults have, like, we already have our rhythms. We already have who we are, right? And so it's harder to change.
Yeah.
And so I liked the way she put it, because no amount of love you give to someone is going to make them change. So
Yeah.
you're overcompensating, you're pouring into them, and they're not going to change their behaviors or their decisions, but you can say, let them do that, and then let yourself, you know, love them in a different way, or pray for them, or or just be there for them. But
Mhm.
you are letting go of what the outcome is of their decisions, or wanting a certain change, or you seeing them a certain way.
Yeah. It's loving people the way they are, as they are, without expecting them to be someone they're not.
Yep.
And that kind of, when you do that and you let them, you then you can take a step back and observe.
Mhm.
And then, she talks about that and says, in 6 months or something, revisit and
Yeah.
say, now, has this person done anything to do anything different? Or do I need to walk away? Do I need to do something different myself? You
Mm.
get to decide how you want to approach that circumstance with that person. And I just think it's such an empowering thing because, you always hear, oh, create your life, create your life. And I think a lot of times that can sound so simple, but
Mhm.
many of us, when we're trying to create our lives, we're creating it around other people's opinions and what they think. And, if it's going to upset them or how they feel. And we live within these parameters unknowingly of what other people want for us or what we
Mm.
think they might want. And with Mel Robbins, it gives you the freedom to say, okay, well, let them think that. Let them, let them, let them.
And I have something that would probably a lot of women would relate to. It's regarding like a parent relationship. So with
Sure.
my father and my relationship, and I mean, honestly, raise your hand if you have daddy issues, um, or mom issues. But I know with my father, an impact that has always been on me is wanting to feel like I'm successful like him, or wanting him to see me in as successful in his eyes as what success is. And as I got older, I started to realize, like, his definition of success was not the same as mine. And as much as I wanted his opinion or him in my life so badly, I needed to let him decide, what he was going to think of me, or how he was going to think of me. And it kind of empowered me to then realize, oh, I can set boundaries, even though I don't like maybe a decision he's making, or maybe I don't like something he's doing, or I don't like an opinion he has about me. I don't need to let it affect my life, because that's his opinion. That's his life. I need to decide what my boundaries are. I need to decide how I want this person in my life, because now it's let me decide how this person is going to be in my life. Even though I don't agree with them on so many different things, I could still have a relationship with my dad because of this theory. Because I'm like, okay, let him essentially, but let me set the boundary. Let me have a relationship in the way, in the capacity that I can, even though I don't agree.
Mm.
And in turn, I also have people around me who would question the way I agree on certain circumstances in this, who are like, well, it's been so long.
Yeah.
Or, um, you want a relationship with your dad. Like, why are you not bending your core values on this? And the truth is, it doesn't align with me or my husband's core values, and that's okay. But let them decide that. Let other family members say whatever they're going to say, whatever negative thought they're going to have, let them have whatever negative thought they're going to have, and let them decide whatever they're going to decide. I really fought myself for a long time on, I want justice, or I want people to stand by me, but they're not going to. In the long run, sometimes they will, and that's so exciting. but sometimes they won't. And you have to let people and adults just be, let them make the decisions, let them do this. Cause no matter what, you can't control that. Like, and as the control freak, I can't control what they're deciding. So that was really freeing for me on the flip side of things, because it allowed me to have relationships with different family members, even though there was different opinions, even though I was disappointing them, even though I didn't agree with something, because I'm letting them live their lives and I'm going to let me set the boundaries, whatever I need to do.
Yeah. And you know what? There's something she talks about in the book that I absolutely love is she's like, the people you love, you cannot control how they think or what,
Mhm.
or their opinion about you. And sometimes they're going to think negative things about you
Yeah.
because we all think negative things about the people we love. And she's like, that is just a reality of being a human being.
Mm.
And so if you think about that, and you think about like maybe what you're saying, how, okay, I got to make this decision and there's going to be people that are going to be upset with me. Well, I'm sure there's a billion other times that they've had a negative opinion about you and they still love you.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that the people are going to stop loving you or even liking you. It's just that they're disagreeing with what you're doing. And it's
Yep.
because it doesn't align with what they want.
Mhm.
But what they want and what you want, don't aren't gonna be the same, and
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, what's good for them may not be good for you,
Yep.
and what's good for you may not be good for them, and that's okay.
Yes.
We can all sometimes we have to agree to just disagree.
And a simple way of this theory, you're talking about negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Everyone you love has a negative thought about you
Yeah.
because that's part of life. Like, for example, when I'm in bed with my husband and Mel Robbins gives the example of her husband farting.
Yes. When he
Honestly, I could say that with Johnny,
Yeah.
but honestly, I would not say the farting. I would say his own Lord of the Rings video game. We're in bed and we're watching our favorite TV show, and he's like on his Lord of the Rings, and he's like, I just got to check it with my friends. He's been playing this game for like 7 years. So, and he was like, I just got to check it real quick. And I just want to grab the phone. And just like such negative thoughts.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I still love Johnny. And
Yes.
no, I'm not going to actually swat the phone out of his hand, even though I desperately want to. But I still love him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you can't control people's negative thoughts about you. Your friends are gonna have negative thoughts, your family members are gonna have negative thoughts. But what you can do is control your behavior and how you show up in
Yeah.
people's lives, because really it's the majority of what you do in people's life that are the real impact, not the
Yeah.
small little details that irritate people in everyday life. Like the Lord of the Rings video game on my husband's phone.
Yeah. We're not gonna go deep into that, but I've heard about it a few times. I think this book, like this theory, also impacts little things.
Mhm.
So, like, I have a friend who feels uncomfortable going to the gym because she's like, I feel like everyone's looking at me like I'm stupid or like, because I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like, okay, well, let them.
Yeah.
You're there for you. You're there for your health. You're there
Mhm.
to make your health your priority and to get strong. So if people are really thinking about you, which let me tell you, they're not, but if they are, let them
Yeah.
and let you show up at the gym and get your health on and feel good and walk out of there feeling all kinds of sassy because you did something that you wanted to do in spite of what anyone else may have been thinking.
Be proud of yourself. Be
Yes.
proud of your decision. I mean, we started Legree a couple weeks ago. I love it. But let me tell you, there's some girls who go there and they're one, ripped, and two, they're just really good at it. And one, I have a lot of leg issues. Okay, not issues. They're just muscle imbalances. And so it was hard for me, and it's still hard for me. I have to go on my knees or I have to try a different position. And at first it was kind of embarrassing, but then I was like, well, who cares? I'm on day 1 and that's someone day 100. You know what I mean? So I got to let them
Yes.
do their thing. And you know what's funny? They're not even thinking about me.
No.
They're not.
No.
They're thinking about their own. They're looking in the mirror, focused on what they're doing. But in our heads, it's how many times do we talk ourselves out of doing things because we're so afraid of people's negative thoughts?
Yeah.
How many times do you talk yourself out of that?
Yeah.
And then you don't go do what you actually wanted to do, which was try that new workout class, start your podcast, grow on social media because you were so scared of hitting post, clicking book, or what was the other one I said?
You said growing your social media.
Oh, well, post.
Posting and posting
Oh,
again.
podcast.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
podcasts.
getting your microphone and uploading it to a site.
Yeah.
We really hold back based off opinions that may not even really exist.
Yeah, I mean, people really aren't. They're so busy with their own lives. Most of the time they're not thinking about us.
Yeah.
And even if they are, it's for like 2.5 seconds and then
Mm.
they move on with their lives. So I just love this theory because it really applies to the big things in life and it applies to the little things in life. And, I think when it comes down to it, it's let them and then let me forge a life that I love, forge a life that I'm proud of and that I've impacted people in a positive way,
That's so good.
you know?
That's so good. Okay, so let's talk about this mindset shift.
Yeah, cuz
Okay, so it is like a full mindset shift. So when you're reading this book, you don't realize how you fully have to like think about your life, think about the different things that are going on in your life, and you're like, "Wow, I've been thinking this way. Now I need to think what Mel Robbins said. I'm going to apply the theory." And it may take a few times. She even talks about a time in the book where she says, I had these friends, they went on vacation and they posted and I haven't talked to them in, a couple of years, but they all went on vacation. And I opened social media even though I was having a good night and I saw the post and she got a jealous bug. And
yeah.
she was like, why didn't they invite me?
Mhm.
And she had like just say let them. Let them. And she said every time I said let them because the emotion came back up, she said the sting was a little less.
Yeah.
So she just kept on having to apply let them, let them, let them. And I always think like, okay, if there's a circumstance in your life, you kind of have to like learn this and say it over and over again. So I like started with my mom's driving.
Oh, I know where this is going.
My mom is so funny too. She's going to laugh at this. My mom is so slow. She has no urgency to go anywhere. And I'm a very type A personality. So I'm like, okay, we have cycle class. We have to leave at this time. And she's like, we're going to get there. I'm going to get there. And I'm like, no, we're not. So we're driving down the freeway. And I'm like, we're going to be late to this class. She's like going, 65 when I'd be going 80. And I'm like, go, mom, go. We have to go. And then she goes to park. And when there's a lot of parking spots, my mom has a hard time deciding where she wants to park.
Yeah. Big decision. There's like 5 spots open and I have to make a decision and it's a lot.
But it's like little things that are even funny, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny because that's like a negative thought that I have about my mom. I love my mom. Like it's not a bad negative thought, but it was irritating in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And she has to say let them, but also I have to say let them. I have to say, well, this is irritating me, but am I really going to allow this to ruin my class, ruin my day doing this because we're late? Maybe 2 minutes? No, and we weren't even late. So look at her all stress free.
We were not.
But it's so funny because you have to just apply it in different areas. And even that's how I started applying it was like, okay, there's this mindset shift that you have to make in everyday life and say, okay, is this going to bother me 1 minute from now, 2 minutes from now, 5 days from now, 10 days from now? Probably not.
Yeah.
My mom's driving isn't going to irritate me an hour from now. No. It's just in that moment.
I think for me, I have kids, right? So I have adult kids and she does address like for teenagers and if you have children and stuff, but it just makes me laugh because even though your kids are adults, you still want to control what they're doing and how they do it sometimes. And so you want to give them input. And sometimes you just you don't need to give them input. And I think a lot of times as moms, it's just because we love our kids and we want everything that's best for them. And so we want to cushion them from everything, even making mistakes. But sometimes you just have to let them make their mistakes because life is the best teacher. And that is so hard as a mama to do that. And so
You want to like catch them as they fall.
yes,
You want to make sure, like, I don't want them to get hurt. But the
yes,
truth is, we got to fall on our butts. Like failure is a part of life and that's how we learn and
yep,
come out to be better human beings.
yes.
And then mom's there to hug.
Yeah, I'm there with the band-aids for your boo-boos and all that good stuff, but as a mom, this book is so good because it also helps create a deeper connection with your kids because you do learn to step back and let them, instead of always inserting yourself into their lives with your opinion or, a how to or whatever. You allow them to learn and then come to you. And I was like, wow, this is such a great theory, even for parenting of with adults.
Yes. You did that really good with my little brother was having like relationship issues. And so she did a really good job of just being like, well, she says, kiddo, kiddo, well,
Yeah.
yeah. Until my brother came to her and
Yeah.
asked for advice. But you did a really good job of just being like, well, I gotta stand it. He's got to decide,
Yeah.
how he's going to
Yeah.
fix this or how he's going to show up differently. So
Yeah.
you did a really good job with Noah doing that. That's
Thanks.
little Noah.
Yeah. Little Noah.
He's not little.
He's going to be 21 in July. But it's learning
He's
to
learning to date,
let them.
Yeah.
He's an adult man. And
Mhm.
so I had to take a hands-off approach, even though I saw it was hard for him. I had to let him make those decisions and learn, and then come to me if he needed that advice, which he
Mhm.
did, because I'm his mom. No.
Who isn't calling my mom for advice? Well, okay, so another part of this book that's very important is like people's opinions.
Yeah.
So, you know, you go to post something, right? The first thing you think about, and she talks about this in her book,
Mhm.
is what other people are going to think.
Yeah.
And this is social media is an easy way to talk about this with.
Mhm.
Um, you're worried about what people think, or what if you want to change your whole entire career? You're worried about what other people are going to think about you
Maybe your parents. What
or
are your
your parents.
parents going to think?
Yeah. So that is kind of hard to get by as well. So the let them theory allows you to allow people, it empowers you to say, just they're going to have their opinions.
Mhm.
It kind of like a mental block.
Yeah.
And you can kind of build an invisible wall. Well, they're there, but I'm really proud of this, or I really want to do this, or I'm really feeling good about this. Lean into that. Lean into that and say, okay, I'm gonna do it, and empower yourself to do it. Whatever it is that you're deciding, because people are gonna have negative opinions about whatever.
Yeah, I love the way she puts it and how she says, people are allowed to be disappointed. They're
Mhm.
allowed to be sad. They're allowed to be mad. They're allowed to be frustrated, just like you.
Yeah.
When people don't rise to your expectations, or they do something that maybe, you know, is disappointing for you, you're allowed to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So the reciprocation on the other end is to allow the other people be
Yeah.
disappointed
Why can't I be this?
when,
Yeah.
yeah. And she goes, and you're allowing them to be human, and you're loving them where they're at. And so I really love that, because I think a lot of times we're, like we said about cushioning the fall with our kids or whatever, it's kind of the same thing. We don't want anyone to be hurt. We don't want anyone to be angry. But, you know, without anger, you wouldn't know happiness.
Yeah.
It's just a part of the human experience.
Mhm.
And so I think that it's almost loving when you allow someone to feel what they feel, because you can create a connection around that with a conversation, maybe even,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
honestly, as you were talking, you were making me think back to a time in my career
Mhm.
when I needed to let someone think negative about me because I was not setting up boundaries,
Yeah.
and it was really causing health issues and things like that.
Mm.
And I finally kind of had to put my foot down, and a little mean, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, "You don't like me." Like I said that. I said, "You don't like me and we don't work good together."
Yeah. You were very, very blunt.
Very blunt. And I said, "And I don't think this is working and I'm not going to continue with this."
Mhm.
And I was so nervous to say that. However, on that point in my time, in that point in time, I needed to allow this person to think that negative thought about me.
Yeah.
I needed them to think whatever negative things they were already feeling and doing, because they were already thinking it, to happen, because I needed to empower myself to get out of the situation I was in.
Yeah.
And, that turned into so many different things down the road. This relationship turned me into the person I was today, and developed some of the businesses I developed today.
Yeah.
But if I didn't learn to let go of someone's negative opinion, I wouldn't have built the business that I have today. I wouldn't have started this podcast,
No. Mm-mm.
because I would have been trapped in the same rat race
Yeah.
over and over again, chasing after somebody's opinion to be positive about me. Just
Yeah.
be on that wheel and there'd be no cheese.
Yeah. You just keep and you like sharing the cheese.
I want to get the cheese.
Share the cheese, share the cheddar.
That's true. Like if
Yeah.
I didn't empower myself to say let them, I would have never,
Yeah.
and what if you're one let them away from starting something? What if you're one let them away from putting a boundary up in your family? What
Yeah.
if you're one let them away from healing a relationship?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think one of the other things for me that let them really helped me with was not focusing on other people's decisions outside of my control. So, other people doing things that I didn't agree with,
Mm, yep.
but I would, my thoughts would ruminate around those decisions, right? And it's a need for control
Yeah.
because that's just human. And let them help me let go of that need to like focus on what those people were doing. And it allowed me to shift my focus onto me, onto
Yeah.
the things that I want to do and what I want to build and my life
Mhm.
and to reach my dreams. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on everything else, everywhere else that's beyond our control, that we miss out on opportunities and we miss out on moments for us in our lives to do the things that we want to do. And this theory literally helps you let go of that and kind of pivot and say, okay, you know what? I have no control over that.
Yep.
And my reaction isn't helping me get to where I want to go. And it isn't going to change the circumstances. But you know what? Let me pivot and let me focus on what I want to do and reach my dreams.
Yeah. Honestly, clap. So good. So good. But it is true. You're so right. And when you were talking, I was thinking about um, some other ways to say, because you're talking about decisions and
Yeah.
being okay with people's decisions. And you can say to yourself, it's not just let them, it's, I'm okay with their decision.
Mhm. Because I can't control their decision. Even if you disagree with it, you have to say, I have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
I have no control over this person
Yep.
or these people and what they're deciding to do.
Yep.
This
It's
is
their choice. That's their
yes,
choice.
and their
I'm
life.
okay with their opinion.
Yes.
You don't need to explain yourself either. That's part
Oh,
of the let me thing is you don't need to explain yourself if you do the let them. You don't have to. That's
mm,
part of it. They're going to
mhm.
think negative thoughts. Let them think negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And so there's different ways to applying let them theory. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, I'm okay with their decision. I'm okay with their negative opinion. I'm okay. Like saying, I'm okay. And you might have to tell yourself this
Yeah.
over and over again. Um, that's part of this because you kind of have to say it over and over again because it's not going to be like, oh, okay, let them, I'm done. Okay.
Yeah. No.
No, it's
Mm-mm.
going to hurt a little bit and you're going to have to tell yourself a few times
Yeah.
and you're going to have to practice it. And you're still going to feel the sting, maybe of someone's decision if it was negative or
Mhm.
you feel disappointed in something.
Mhm.
Um, but that doesn't mean you have to live in it. And I liked how you said it let me change the way I thought. It let me choose a different future too, as
Mhm.
well. We were just talking about the other day of creating new traditions,
Yes.
sometimes there needs to be a pivot. There needs to be a change. And because of people's decisions.
Yes.
And so that's okay for you to develop a new tradition to do a new thing. Um, I think that's something we forget in life is to try new things and to do new things. And this is part of that.
Yeah.
You may need to do that. And the let them theory allows you to set boundaries so that you can do whatever you're looking to do,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Whatever's out there.
So there's a whole mindset shift here,
Mhm.
right? Right. And so, um, is there has there been like a specific time where you kind of noticed that you needed to make it?
Like change
Like
my
make a mindset shift? Like have you
oh,
like noticed like,
to use
oh,
the let them theory?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Um, oh, yeah. So recently, there's been a big family shift in extended family
Mhm.
stuff. And I don't agree with every decision that everybody's making,
Yes.
but it's beyond my control. And so, at first I was like, oh, I was, really ruminating on it. And then I kind of took a step back and I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
let them, because their decision has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of making it about me or how I feel, I kind of stepped into their shoes and thought about how they must feel. And it actually took me down a couple notches with my anger and my frustration or my hurt. And it helped me to pivot my focus on the relationship itself, so that I could actually have a conversation with them that was calm and loving and um open to allow them to feel what they feel.
Our conversation worked. We were having this whole
Yes,
conversation, yes,
we were.
on the couch the other day,
Yes.
and I said, like, me and her were going back and forth on
Yes.
this exact thing.
You're
So I'm, like, listening to her, and
both
I'm like,
crying.
I was like, "Wow, that really made an impact," because she's talking about it now.
Yes. And you know what? Another thing, mamas, don't forget, your kids have things to teach you too.
I was having a really proud moment there.
Yeah, you should be, because it really did help me. You
Yes.
reminded me, like, okay, we're reading this book,
Yeah.
like, and we're reading it together. And you just reminded me, like, you don't have any control, and it isn't about you. Like, they're not doing it out of malice or
No,
anything. And we have to think about how these people are feeling,
they're doing it out of their own
and
pain.
yeah, out of their
Yeah.
own. So step into their shoes. And I did, and I took a step back, and it made me change my whole narrative of the conversation I would like to have with them. And, I think, like, a lot of times it's about control. Like, we
Mhm.
want to control the circumstances, we want to control the outcome,
Yeah.
because control is actually the root of fear. We're afraid. And I think when we replace love with fear, it helps us to walk in the let them theory.
So good. Well, I've been talking to the same circumstance I've been talking with my therapist about.
Yes, which
So I go to therapy once a week, highly recommend it. Have lots of issues, ask my husband. I'm healthy now. It's okay. I'm just joking. No, but really, I brought this theory to my therapist and I was like, look, I found this book. He's like, oh yeah, I know who Mel Robbins is. And the same exact circumstance that my mom's talking about obviously applies to me as well, because they're from my extended family as well. And I had some of the same thoughts, because in my whole life, with whatever was happening in our lives, I wanted to fix how people's emotions were going. So I was like, I want them to feel this way. I want to uplift them. I want them to make this decision because I want this justice and I want, right? But you can't force someone to make an opinion. You can't force them to, feel a certain way. They're going to be disappointed. They're going to do this. They're going to make the decision. And I had to really let go of that, because I would really try to force, no matter what holiday it was, what birthday it was, I was going to create in my head this joyous thing. Even my brothers laughed. We're like, Sierra was going to make the conversation. And I would over make conversation. I would over make sure people were going to laugh. And I'm not even funny. I'm a firstborn daughter. Ask my brother's the middle child. He's the funniest thing alive.
oh my gosh.
Me, however, I am not funny, and I'm okay with that. I am smart. I'm just kidding. But really, though, I overcompensated, and I found myself, since really October of this circumstance happening for us, me before I even found the let them theory, as soon as I heard it on social media, because it's actually how I found the book, was through some reels that she was doing. Just say, let them.
Yeah.
I started to let go of people, like my family's opinions. I started to let go of their pain. And my therapist was like, because it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
And you need to let you focus on building your family and your future.
Yeah.
Because what I was doing was I was trying to be the fixer in the family. And I'm not going to fix everyone. I'm not going to fix generational hurt. I'm not going to fix people's mistakes.
No.
And so I needed to let me, and that's part of it. Part of it is a little selfish. Let me go create a future for my future children and my family.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me because a lot of, in your 20s, you think of your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, you have this big old family. You grow up and then you got a whole nother family when you marry. And then you have your own children. And it's a lot to put on your shoulders to be someone who's going to try to fix someone's emotions.
Yeah.
And when I realized I wasn't going to, and I took a step back, I was like, it was almost like relieving because it empowered me to be able to develop the life that I wanted.
Yeah. And to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we spend so much time, like when I heard you say, I'm not even funny, like trying to be funny, trying to keep the conversation afloat. You were trying to control the perception that someone had of you
Yep.
and try to create a circumstance that
Yep.
wasn't even really there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times as people, we really try to create a certain perception so people will see us a certain way, either as nice or good or giving, whatever it may be. And we truly aren't actually being ourselves because it goes back to we're afraid of disappointing people. We're afraid they won't like us or love us or they'll be mad or angry or whatever. But if you can't truly live and be yourself, what does it even matter?
Yep.
I just think that you're living under a mask and under false pretenses if you can't be who God created you to be, if you can't be around people and be truly who you are. And so I think a lot of times when we're trying to create that perception, we have to remember if they're not going to like me, just let them.
Yep.
We have to remember that. And we have to make let them. One thing I was realizing is making let them a habit. So it's not a natural way of thinking. It's not a natural way of thinking for me to be getting ready to tell someone, I'm sorry, I can't go, wherever you're asking me to go.
Yeah.
And then hearing them say, well, why not? And be upset. It's not a natural reaction for me to go, well, let them be upset. I mean, it just isn't.
Yeah.
You want to not disappoint.
Actually, here's a great circumstance with what you're just saying. The other night, I had a friend call me. It was like a Friday night. I was kind of having a hard day.
Mhm.
And then the next day, I had plans with a different set of friends. And then she had messaged me and said, hey, I called you Friday. And I was like, oh my gosh, I started to get anxiety because I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to text her. But on Friday, I was in my own, genuinely in my own head, trying to relax. I hadn't had a night alone in a long time. And
Mhm.
I just needed it.
Sure.
Right. And so, but I immediately felt panic. Oh my gosh, I should call her right now. I need to do all these things. I need to do this. But I was like, oh, but she was already disappointed in me. And I had to be okay with letting her be disappointed with me. And I could call her tomorrow and just say, I'm sorry and things like that. Cause now it's in my power to let me to be a better friend. But, I immediately I had to practice it just the other day because I was so oh my gosh, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
This person's going to hate me forever.
Yeah.
And that's not the truth.
Yeah. No.
So
Good. I mean, that's a great example because I think that happens a lot, especially at the age of technology and everyone's wants to get a hold of us right away all the time. And it's I'm just trying to chill. Just hang on,
Yes.
and it's not lack of love or lack of wanting to communicate with people, but sometimes life is lifing and you just got to take a time out.
Yeah. And honestly, I didn't see the call till 8 p.m. that night. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, someone called me and I didn't even know because I'll leave my phone everywhere, guys. I will not even be paying attention to
Oh yeah.
it.
She's the worst. I'm like, pick up your phone. I'll be out at the grocery store or something. And I'm trying to call her. I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I have to either call her husband or her brothers. And then they have to get her to answer her phone.
Yeah. She always calls my husband and Johnny goes, answer your phone.
Yes. I'm all, can you tell Sierra to look at her phone?
Another area real quick that I think we need to touch on real quick is applying the let them theory to dating.
Yes, she totally talks about that in the book and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. She talked about ghosting, which I thought was really spot on for
That
this day and
happens.
age. And
Yes.
she's like, if they ghost you, let
Let
them.
'em.
And you don't want to be with someone you have to chase around and beg for their attention anyways.
No.
And that's just not Mel Robbins. That's Mama Holla talking to you right now.
Mama Holly.
Mama Holly.
That's true. Also, like your perception of who you want someone to be. Because sometimes women get into relationships and we have this idea of who they're supposed to be.
Yes.
So, like, maybe they're, you know, a certain way, and then you're like fall in love with them, and then they're not like your expectations where they were going to open your door, they were going to do this. Well, from the start, they weren't doing that, but you're like, oh, they'll do it if I tell them. They'll do it eventually. They'll do this. So you have this expectation that they're going to change, and then they never do. And then you're sitting there a year later and you're like, why didn't you ever change? Well, really, they didn't want to change, honey. They did not want to change. That's who they were. And it's not a bad thing, but you also need to go into it with the expectation that, hey, this man may not have everything that you want, or they may not be ready to. Some people just have a lot of issues and they may not be ready to date.
Yeah. And you have to
Let them.
let them and also let you. What is it that you're going to do? Are you going to stay with that person and waste your time and energy on someone who doesn't want to actually have a commitment with you when you're a person that wants a commitment?
Absolutely.
Or are you going to walk away and actually give yourself the opportunity to meet someone who does want to treat you the way that you want to be treated,
Yes.
and be in a committed relationship? And I think another thing is if you're in a relationship that it's not a bad relationship. Like, she had an example about a couple that was getting married and the groom had written into her about, we're getting closer to the
Yes.
wedding. We're fighting all the time. We're not getting along. I'm not thinking this is the right person for me, but what do I do? Because we've already have the invitations out. We've paid for everything. The wedding's only like 4 weeks away. There's a lot of people that are going to be disappointed if I cancel this wedding. And I love how she explained that, she doesn't know what happened, but what she hopes happened is that he canceled the wedding in a loving way. He told his bride, hey, this isn't right for us. She said, but that not only was the right thing for him, that was the right thing for her.
Yeah.
And to allow her to go find somebody that actually really wants to be with her right person.
Yeah.
And I just think that's something that's so important, that if you're in a relationship and you're going along and you find yourself like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore, it's not only fair to you, it's fair to the other person to let them go and let them be free to find someone who actually does want to be with them. And that is their right person.
That is so true. That applies to so many different areas of dating.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to make sure I brought up dating, because I think that's a huge area of the let them theory and why it needs to be applied.
Yeah.
But this episode's so good.
It was so good.
10 out of 10. Honestly, go buy this book on Amazon. Everyone put it in their cart or get the Audible, either one.
Yes, I was going to say, or listen to the Audible on a walk, the gym. It's so good.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Okay, so we're going to leave you with just one thought. You can journal about it, whatever you got to do. What's one area of life where you need to let them? Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this episode gave you something to think about, inspired you, or made you feel a little less alone.
And if you loved what you heard, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening so we can reach more amazing listeners just like you.
Let's get social. You can find us on Instagram at callyourmom_podcast, on YouTube at callyourmom, or on Facebook at callyourmompodcast. Remember, in this space, you're never alone. You can always call your mom.